Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a mastery empowerment course, and it is part of our special series to empower you and your creativity during this time in our life. Thank you so much for being here. I want to remind you to please click the like button on this video and also subscribe to this YouTube channel. My guest today is Jules Arnes, and she is here in this Mastery Empowerment course, Immune Booster Cellular Upgrade. Let's welcome Jules to this quantum information. Hi, Jules, welcome.
Thank you, Lauren. I'm so happy to be here. So this is my first time doing a course like this. And, I'm always waiting for you to ask me the question. But so luckily, I just wrote down some questions and some direction of where we're going to go. So I'll just go ahead, and I wanted to start it with a story because this time period that we're in right now has just been this evolution for me over the last 5 years. And it was about 4 years ago on 9/2/2016 that I received the message that Christ consciousness was being downloaded into the universe, and that it was coming from a sun moving into the sun that we have at this time. And of course I was like, okay, that's really weird. I didn't have any evidence of it, but I kept writing about it. And the message that I got, that there was going to be these light codes or codes of intelligence that would be downloaded from the sun and would upgrade the cells of humanity. So I wrote that book, like I said, I think I published it maybe 4 years ago. Kind of forgot about it, just put it to the side, just thought nobody's going to understand what this means. And I didn't really do a whole lot with it. Well, just about, I guess it was, well, it was on the 8th of March. I was getting ready to go to San Diego for a seminar. And I kept getting the message of 911. And I was like, ooh, am I supposed to go to San Diego? And I kept going, yes, you're supposed to go. Yes, you're supposed to go. So I drove to the airport the next day, and I get on the bus, and the driver has this little notebook that says 911 on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, there it is again. And then I go to my plane, and I'm about to get on a plane that is a 911. It was 4511 was my plane. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I supposed to get on this plane? I kept going, yes, you're supposed to get on the plane. You're supposed to get on the plane. So I go to San Diego, and I go to get a coffee, and my bill is 911. And so I started just kind of asking myself, what does 911 mean? Is there some sort of question that I'm supposed to be asking myself? So over this course of the 3 days that I was there, I'm in the second day of the class, and I'm kind of zoning out at this point because I'm just getting all this information coming through. You could say it was in a download. And I open the book, and I look, and I realize that we're in the dates 9 to 11. And I was in the day in between the 9 and 11. And it was in that moment that I realized that I had written about the spiritual meaning of 911 in my book. So I kept trying to remember, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? And then the last day of the seminar, I am pretty sure I had the message. I was ready to just tune out and just get back into what I was supposed to be doing there. And a friend of mine sent me a picture that said it was on the 11th day at 11:11. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to screenshot this. So I go to screenshot it, and the guy that's standing up on stage stops what he's saying and says, it's 9:11. And I was like, I almost put my phone down, and I realized I was screenshotting at exactly 911. So I was like, okay, I need to go home. I need to integrate this. What does this mean? What does this mean? And for some of you, I sent out an email about the spiritual meaning of 911. And I'm starting with this because it's going to lead into the rest of my teaching. So 911, 9 is the number, get my little pen here, is the number of God. So in numerology, 9 is also completion. And the really cool thing about 9 is anytime you add a number to it, the number reflects itself. So let's see, that's not right. So it would be actually, so a 9 plus a 4 is 13, which is in numerology actually a 4, because anytime there's an uneven number like that, you add the number to get the number that it is. But when you add a 9 to a 9, you get a 9. So it would be 18, which is actually a 9. And so a 9 is the number of God because God reflects God, or you could say it's the only number that reflects itself. But the other thing about a 9, which is where the 11 comes through, is that if you add a 2 to a 9, it makes an 11. So a number 2 is the only number that we can add to a 9 that creates a master number. And the master number of 11 is Christ consciousness. It is intuition. It's the gateway to the new earth. So what does 911 mean for us right now? Well, the first thing is that it means that we have a choice, that we have a choice on how we're going to experience this. So because we're in a 9, we're in this place of completion. So we can either move into a 10, which is actually a 1, and repeat the karma cycle, or we can move into the 11 by adding a 2. So the 2 is choice. The 2 is unity consciousness. The 2 is connection to your divine. It is the choice that we make over and over again as we're moving from the 9 into the 11. And we also have the choice to move into a 10 and repeat the cycle. But in this time of stillness that we're in right now, we are more than ever giving the choice to evolve and expand into unity consciousness. So how does this reflect on the COVID-19? Well, this is so cool, you guys. So COVID-19, when you add it all together, the numerology of COVID-19 is a 9. It is the reflection of God. And this is a stretch. So I'm going to just say right here that everything that I am saying, I wanted to meet you where you are. So this isn't about a story. This isn't about an identity. This isn't about having resistance. It's not about any of that. Like, I guess what I'm saying is that I want you to take the words that I have and just allow them to meet you where you are. And if they don't resonate with you, it's fine. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that it doesn't resonate with you. And again, it's being able to take my words and not have the identity or the story that goes behind the words, because the message that I received is in equations, and it's really hard to take an equation and put it into the English language. So I have done my very best to do that because I'm being told that this is the message that people need to hear, and it is what we're experiencing. I know that some of you have heard me say that we're in the event right now. This is happening. And what is that event? Well, this is the event of the 9 to 11. So what is COVID-19? So the information that I have received is that COVID-19 is the Christ code. It is holding the code to awaken humanity. And it was released on 9/2/2016. And between then, and I'm sure most of you have noticed, time has really been speeding up. Our days are getting shorter. We're not getting as much in. Sometimes we'll go through time gaps. All of that is happening because time is beginning to bend. Let's see, where's my little towel here. So for now, right now, time is linear for us, but there's also like a whole nother spectrum where a lot of you are experiencing time more in spherical form. And because we're having both experiences at the same time, time is bending. So you can see it almost like if this is what we're experiencing along this timeline, if the circle bends on top of each other, all of this is also, it's almost like you can see it like a piece of paper. So if we are experiencing this whole piece of paper and something that wasn't going to happen until like the middle of our timeline is here, and we bend time, then all of a sudden we're experiencing everything at one time. And that is what I call the still point. That is what we're in right now. Another way of saying is that we've moved beyond time altogether. We're in a time period where time has no meaning. It's the beginning of time again. You could say, I say a lot that we're going to have the reset button, and a lot of people are saying that, yes, we're in a time of stillness, and we truly are. We're in a time where time is not necessarily standing still, because we're actually existing beyond time altogether until the 21st of April. So what do we do with that? So that's a lot of information that I've said all at one time. But I think the biggest part is, what do we do with our experience, and why is COVID-19 here? So like I said, it was released 9/2/2016, and now all of a sudden it has spread across the universe in a very short amount of time. Since the end of January until now, it's pretty much spread all the way around the world because we bent time. So now we're all experiencing the exact same thing all around the world. And what used to be an individual experience is now become a universal experience. It's the first step into unity consciousness. So let's go back to the COVID-19 and what I'm calling the Christ code. So the Christ code are these codes that I saw being released from the sun. And I don't know that it's important to know why or how they're here, but they're here for us to awaken and to experience. And it's not alive, it's just a code. It's not here, it doesn't have this thing where it's growing because it's multiplying like an organism or something like that. It's just a code, and everybody will receive the code, whether they feel it or not. But what it's really here to do is to elevate ourselves, alter our DNA, so that we can move into the next level of human consciousness. So let's go into how we can use that to ascend. So the first thing I want to talk about is that when people are getting the virus, it's not that there's anything wrong or bad with them. It just means that their body wasn't at a frequency where they could hold the virus for it to do what it needed to do and pass through. A lot of times, if somebody is getting sick, it's because the virus went in, it was unable to alternate the DNA, so it has to enter the cell in order to do that. So if you can see your cell, and then here's the virus, and we'll talk more about what these are. It's supposed to just move in, download what it's doing right into the DNA, and then it passes through. And sometimes people will still have symptoms like a runny nose or a sore throat, what I would call a spiritual cold, because it just raised your frequency probably to the highest level that your body has been able to hold in physical form. And then there's those that it comes in and it's not able to alter the DNA just through frequency by reception. So it has to enter the cell in order to do that. And those are the people that are getting really sick. It's still here to raise our frequency. It is still here to awaken humanity. It was never meant to harm or to hurt. So what can we do with that? If you think about what a virus is, it's something that spreads. Well, when we attach fear to a virus, that fear is spreading as well. And it's a choice. We go back to that 9 to the 2. It's a choice to go through this experience in the way that is going to serve our awakening. And so we do that by not attaching to the fear and attaching to the higher frequency that's there, because every experience has two sides of the coin. There's the higher vibrational frequency, and then there's going to be more of the social conscious frequency, the frequency that humanity agrees to. And unfortunately, with this virus, people are agreeing that we should be afraid of it. Well, anytime that our body is afraid of something, it's releasing cortisol into the body, which is actually turns off our immune system. We go into stress, our body goes into fight or flight, and it's going to resist the virus, but we're not supposed to resist it. There's nothing about it that we need to resist. Is all we need to do is hold our frequency, connect to our divine, keep going from the 9 to the 11, and allow the virus to flow through. Because it's going to be here. It's here for a reason. And the more we resist it, the more we're lowering our frequency to where we may have penetration. So what are some other things that we can do to avoid penetration? Well, it's anything you can do to raise your frequency. So whether it's the Scalar program, or it's listening to meditations, listening to high vibe things, because you guys, we're in this time where these frequencies that are here for us are here. And this is one thing I want to say about that, because I notice a lot of people are experiencing some, I guess maybe anxiety would be a really good word for it. And so I challenge you to sit with that anxiety just a little bit longer, because part of the frequency shift that we're in, we have to kind of go through some static in order to get to the other side that is bliss. And so the longer we sit with kind of what we would maybe register as anxiety, is really just this really high frequency that's coming in that our body is resisting because it doesn't recognize it. But if we fully allow ourselves to go through it, we get to the other side of bliss. Well, the same exact thing is happening with the COVID-19. If we can just sit with it, allow the frequency to do what it's here to do, and allow it to pass through, on the other side is the awakening of humanity. It's the new earth frequencies. So the thing I wanted to also share is what the virus actually looks like. So it has these little thorns that are coming out of it. So this is the other reason I'm calling the COVID-19 the Christ code. We're removing the crown of thorns so that we can awaken consciously to the divine mind. God reflects God. Divine reflects divine. And you are the divine. And so this is the removal of the story of, I guess you could say, of sin and of shame. And it's not about the Bible. It's not about the return of Jesus, even though on some level, if we want to put a story to it, it could be that. But what I'm challenging you to do is to take all of that and move beyond the story altogether, to move beyond identity altogether, because it's not about attaching a story to something that you can make sense of. It's actually asking you to do the opposite, to take the story and the identity out altogether and move beyond what your mind can even comprehend, because that is where we start to awaken to our new earth reality. That's where we start to experience heaven on earth, is because we're not taking our reflection and putting it into the world from something that we've experienced in the past. We're asking to move into a reflection that we don't even understand. And in order to do that, we have to be vulnerable. We have to allow ourselves to be uncomfortable. We have to allow ourselves to sit in the unknown and allow the divine to flow through us without actually knowing what that looks like. And that is truly the experience of walking into the new earth. And that experience is here for all of us. So I wanted to read just this little writing that I wrote about the expansion of 911. So I'm just going to read it out loud. So 911 is expanding into higher levels or equations. It is the story of the Bible in form of frequency, levels, or states of consciousness. It is the reset. We have entered God. The still point, 9 reflects 9. 11 is the rebirth of Christ in physical form. The 2 is the merging of the bloodline of Jesus and Mary. It is the story of the Bible, but now is being expressed beyond the story itself, or the frequency of which one can experience it. The experience with no story or identity. The creation of heaven on earth when the reset button is pushed. Oneness. We are God and reflect God at the same time. Time has bent. We are living beyond time. We exist before or beyond time in the divine mind. The law of the commandments was needed in duality to create order or cosmic law. No law is needed in the state of oneness. This is unity and the experience of heaven on earth. We love as God because we reflect God. The 11 is the experience of God in duality or in the unity emerging from the existence of duality. So really it all goes back to God reflects God. And we experience different frequencies or states of consciousness within that reflection. So what I mean by that is that this has always been so. God has always reflected God. You could say that I am that I am. We are here to reflect different levels of consciousness or frequencies of what God is. And now that we have spent time and we're in this time of stillness, we are being downloaded with the Christ code to awaken to what our reflection can be outside of what our mind understands. So so I wanted to also go into, I was going to get my little questions here to make sure I didn't forget anything. Okay, so I did forget something. So I was saying that the reset button, at least for time to start to come back out of this time of stillness, will be on the 21st of April. And then on 11/11/2027 is when the frequency shift will be. So you could see, like right now, I think they say there's 1%. So if you are watching this, you are in that 1% of all humanity is awakened. And in 2027, 11/11/2027, that tip is going to go from 1% to 51%. So there's going to actually be more people in the world that are awakened than there are unawakened. And that will be the unfolding of heaven on earth. So let me just go through this. I know this was a lot.
I just have to say, wow, that's so cool. Yay. I mean, that's really, really cool.
Isn't it?
That's really, really cool. Thank you.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh, absolutely. So I guess what I'm saying is that this is the awakening. We are in this time where we should be celebrating. So, and that celebration and that higher frequency is always there. And that is the best thing that we can do for our immune system as well. Because, like I said, when we're connected to the virus of fear, well, then we're going to create that experience and that reflection, not only in our physical body, but in the outside reality. So what we're being asked to do is to go from the 9 to the 11, is to continue to choose the new earth reality. And it's always a choice. And that doesn't mean that we don't get to have the emotions or the frequency, experience these lower frequencies that are here, as long as when we are experiencing that, we're still choosing the higher frequency, because we can have an emotion and a low vibrational experience and still choose the higher frequency. We may not feel it. We may not even be conscious that we've done that, But if we're actually choosing it in the moment, we are telling the universe that yes, in this moment, I'm choosing heaven on earth. Even if I'm not experiencing it in this moment, I am still creating it through my choice. And that's what the two is. That's all we have to do is add a two to the nine, and we create heaven on earth. Okay, I think I went through a lot. I could go on and on about this, but Lauren, do you have any questions or should I keep going?
Yes, keep going. I just want to share that. All right, it's beautiful. We're already, if we look out in our outer world, we're already seeing hearts open, and this is happening on a global scale. And I call it human diplomacy, and that's a bridge to new earth, and new solutions are going to come about. And so you said something like, oh, what would reflecting levels of consciousness were being downloaded. Let's celebrate and let's get wildly creative on new earth. Everything is up for grabs to be made in a new way that's heart-based. And isn't that exciting? I think it's game on for so many, because we're hearing the call, and this clarity is motivating us and moving us into new action where we're not being asked, but we know what to do. And it's happening on all levels as we choose these higher frequencies.
So beautifully said. So beautifully said. As you were talking, I just was talking. I just had this interview with a lady, and we were talking about how we're moving from the me to the we. And so we were kind of playing with that. And so we did this thing where we had, it was a heart, like we did the heart with our hands. So we went from our heart to the me to the we. And that's really what's happening is that as we connect more and more to our heart, we're expanding into that higher version of ourselves, and then we're allowing that reflection into our universe. And that's the beginning of unity consciousness, is that we can reflect our heart in its purest form into the world. Because if we're holding our purest form, our reflection will see that, like, no matter what our experience is, if we can hold that reflection, it's going to change. And that's why I always say people can have the same exact experience from very different levels of consciousness or frequency, and they can both walk away saying, oh my gosh, that was the best ever. Or the other person can be like, oh my God, that was horrible. How can you say it's the best ever? And that's really what's happening right now. Like when that reset button is pushed, there's going to be people that are like, that was the worst experience of my life. And then there's going to be people that are like, oh my gosh, how can you say that? That was like, we just awakened humanity and we are creating the new earth right now. So there's going to be those two different levels of experience. And there's a part of me that feels like in these next 7 years, that's going to maybe be true on some level. But as more and more people are holding this higher level of consciousness, of course, we're going to start to reflect that to more and more people. And the more we can reflect that to other people, the more we're inviting others to awaken. And that's really how this awakening of tipping it the other way from that 1% to 51. I mean, in 7 years, that we're going to be going through some really big shifts in this 7 years. It's so exciting.
We were expecting that on December 21st, 2012. And so it's happening one heart at a time. And this is a mass acceleration of it. And it's simply a return to the heart, a return to love, where each of us know deep in our hearts, when we came to this planet as little children, we would look around and see things that just were not right. And so now we have an opportunity to correct that. And it's so beautiful. So thank you. So please do continue, Missy. This is wonderful.
Awesome. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to do is just do like a little diagram. So this is my person. I'm not a very good drawer. Okay. All right. So this is, I just want to go with how frequency can work when we are experiencing not even just the virus, but you could say things like 5G and all those things that create resistance and fear in us, because we don't want to ever be in a state of resistance. And there are different frequencies of reflection everywhere in the world. And what are you going to reflect? We go back to that place of God reflects God, or divine reflects divine. Your inner world reflects your outer world. So, what do we do? So, this is what happens. So, let's say you're resonating at 528. So, if you're resonating at 528 and there's another frequency that comes in at, let's say, 200, or even lower, would say even down to like the level of shame, and you're holding this frequency will pass right through you. It will not stay there unless you lower in frequency, you read the frequency, and you decide to create a story about it and move into resistance. What we want to have happen, of course, is it's okay to come down and read the frequency, see it for what it is, and then allow it to move through, because it does not reflect your home frequency. So we use it as information and then we let it pass through. So what happens when a lower vibration, whether it be 5G, whether it be a thought, whether it be an experience, if it is lower than what we are here to vibrate at, and we create a story or belief system about it, or we go into resistance or fear about it, then our frequency lowers, and then this frequency begins to reflect our inner reality and our outer reality. So let's say that the vibration of 200 is poverty, and in this time, like, we're really uncertain about money, and this is normally your frequency around money, and it's always coming in, it's coming out, it's just this really free flowing energy. Well, now, if we're in this time period where a lot of people are spreading the virus of fear of money, and it may pass through you. So it passes through you, you lower your frequency, and let's just say, we can also say this about the virus. So you lower your frequency to identify this lower frequency that passed through you of, let's say, poverty or the virus, and you connect to it in social consciousness. So you're connecting to it in fear. You create a belief system about it, how it's going to affect your life. You go into the whole story of like what's going to happen. And then all of a sudden you're vibrating right here. You have allowed this frequency to enter your body. And then over time, if you can continue the story in the belief system, it becomes dense. And then we become sick, or we see it in our reality. So I wanted to go over this a little bit, just because it's really that simple to allow a frequency to do what it needs to do and pass through, just like the COVID-19 or Christ code. It's here. And in this case, actually, the opposite is true if you allow it to be, because the Christ code is vibrating at 1100. And if you're naturally vibrating at like 700, your body is still going to recognize it as a frequency that is not vibrating with your own. And so it will raise in frequency to identify whether or not we need to have this in our body. And the same thing can happen, is that's what I was talking about, going through that static, is that we can actually go into resistance about it and create a story, because our bodies can't identify a frequency that it's never experienced before. And so it can trigger that immune response where it's going to attack the virus. And then we create the story about it and we bring that into our reality. When the key is to read the frequency and then decide if it's important. And if it's not, then we just allow it to flow through. And that's what happens with the COVID-19 virus. If we allow it to, is that we can identify it, not create a story about it. It does what it needs to do, and then it flows through. And we can have the experience of that higher frequency that it's actually downloading. Do you have any questions about that, Laurent? Well, maybe she's not hearing me. So that
I do have some questions on that.
okay.
Absolutely, I do. And I couldn't get unmuted fast enough and turn my camera on fast enough. Okay. All right. How do you know what frequency you're vibrating at? Can
Hmm.
you explain this? Because these are levels of consciousness. It all comes back to love. So, can you share a little bit more on that and allowing it to flow through?
Perfect. So we all have our home frequency. So I don't know that it matters exactly like the number scale of hertz that we vibrate at, though I think it's really fascinating. But I think more importantly is that you know what you feel like when you're in your best self. So yes, we all vibrate in love, but we also all are here to resonate at a certain frequency. I mean, really, I see it as like we're all these little beacons of light, and we all are here to resonate a certain frequency, because when all those frequencies come together, they create the gridwork of divinity. And so, whether your home frequency is 500 or 700 or whatever it is, your home frequency is when you feel your best. It's when you feel connected to your divine, you feel in flow. And of course our home frequency is going to fluctuate a little bit depending on the thoughts that we're having, or if we're in a download, a spiritual awakening. But when we always go back to that feeling of, this is where I feel my best. So it can go a little bit higher, it maybe go a little bit lower, but we always kind of go back to our center point. And I'm sorry, I forgot what the question was that you had after that, honey.
Simply allowing it to flow. You said decide, read the frequency, decide if it's important. Can you clarify how we decide if it's important and allowing it?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for asking. And I think that this comes with time, as the more we get to know what our home frequency is. When a frequency comes in that's not of that range of what our home frequency is, then we get a radar of like, oh, there's something coming in that is not in my home frequency. And a lot of times when people aren't aware of what their home frequency is, they'll take it on as their own. Like, oh, this is something that's wrong with me, or oh, this is something outside of me. They'll attach to it and recognize the frequency as being either higher or lower, and then not recognizing that it was just there and it could have just passed right through and they could have never even had the experience of it, just like, oh, there's that lower frequency, and just kind of identified it and let it flow through. But a lot of times what happens, especially if it's a lower frequency, they'll attach to it and make it their own experience. So let's say it's the frequency of shame. Well, all of a sudden they'll feel that frequency move through them. They'll attach to it, create a story of like, oh my gosh, why do I feel this way? And they're like, oh, well, I must feel like this because of this, or I must feel like this because of this, when really they just walked through a frequency that was lower than their home frequency. And they could have just identified it, say, oh, is this important to me? No, it's not. Okay, I'm going to allow it to flow through. And if we're not super aware of when those frequencies are moving, then we attach to them, make it our own identity, and then create that reality in our existence.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. So it's all these things that take us out of our home frequency or out of love. And I hear the next question would be, how do we raise our home frequency? I guess that is the deep purification that we're going through right now. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I don't know that our home frequency is kind of the frequency that we were born at. So it's us in our purest form. So if we're not resonating in our home frequency, then we're resonating in a belief system or a story, because otherwise we would always be resonating in the purity of what we're here to be. So can you raise your home frequency? I think that that's what the code is here for.
And I
So
think everyone really has, I mean, I think that home frequency is pretty good, right?
oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. Like I And I think, like I said, with this Christ code that's coming in right now, is giving us the ability to even hold a higher home frequency so that we can assist others to raise in frequency as well. And so that we can start to create our, what I would call heaven on earth, our new earth experience.
All right. And so if you were to put a dimensional feel to it, it's up there. It's like, it's God reflecting God. It's source.
And that
That's
just gives
big.
me chills every time
I
I
know.
say that. I just like, oh my gosh, this is really this. I, like I said, the time is now. We are in the event. If you are here to ascend, it is time. We are in it right now. It's funny because when I wrote my book, I taught, the whole book is about returning to God. And I knew there was going to be a time where we moved beyond time in general, and that we'd go into this place where we were living beyond time. But it was so beyond my mind then, even though I wrote about it, I didn't have an understanding of what that would be like. And there was a part of me that just thought, oh, it's something that's going to happen over like a really long period of time. And then we're just going to one day wake up and be like, oh, wow, it actually happened. But uh, I don't know. I guess I registered it as an event, but I didn't think it was going to be like actually an event. And that is so exciting. Um,
Yes, very, very exciting. Very exciting. Okay. Well, we have a few more minutes here, so I want to give you the time to complete this. Yes. Okay.
okay, so I have an activation that I want to read. So let me find it here. Okay, here it is. Okay, so this is an activation that I wanted to read. And so if everyone wants to just take a few minutes, maybe we'll just connect to our hearts for just a few minutes, just breathing in and out. And I like to breathe in through my heart. Like for me, the color right now is purple, and then I'm breathing out through my mouth blue. But whatever color feels good to you, just allow that experience. So just breathing in through the heart, and then breathing out. Just allowing this beautiful color, whatever you choose, to bring in the color and then bringing out a color. And you can just kind of stay in this breath as I read the activation. The keys of the true one are the children of light, creating a field of glory in the energy of the great release. The great white cell. The uprising of the one will be the opening to the new earth and the collapse of time as we know it. It is the activation of the ascended bloodline in the vibration and levels of light energy that is used to program the consciousness of humanity. The code of the one is released, and its activation is to support your physical form and merging with this field of glory. The grace of the great release of the great white cell. We ascend beyond tradition or prophecy and connect to the great mind that holds no duality or story. Today we are activating through the element of divinity, tracing your bloodline to before time and beyond the divine itself. The children of light are here. They were created in two bloodlines that are merging into one frequency of origin to be born again in unity. This activation moves through your blood in the elemental sequence of the great white cell of the divine. The cell releases into your body and spins with the light of God. It pulsates it through your body like an electric current of energy. As it pulses through your body, it sends signals of intelligence to the DNA, the spoken word of the divine order. This vibration is an intelligence that holds the resonance of the divine mind and allows your cells to duplicate this intelligence as the blood of duality merges to one walk of life, the life of children in the vast systems, working in oneness in your cellular system. You walk in the light of the divine in the flesh. Allow the great white cell to integrate into form within the walls of your body. More and more light spreads between every cell and every molecule, raising your frequency to meet the reflection of God. God reflects God. I am that I am. This is the time. You are the altar of the electric magnetic order of the life code, the Christ code. The code has been revealed. It is unlocking the veil of separation and bonding the ascended bloodline for all time and forever. It is the days of rebirth, resurrection. Walk with open arms, love with an open heart, connect in oneness. Be lifted in joy in every moment, beyond time and beyond the story or identity of God. Stand in the resonance of God and become the flesh of the divine mind. It is time. Enter the day of glory. So there was something that came to me as I was reading that, and we haven't really talked much about it. But for many of us, we are holding two separate bloodlines. And whether that's an actual reality in our blood itself, or it's a symbol of what will happen when we continue to move into the two. Because if you think about the number two, it's connection of two people, it's connection to the divine, but they're in separate forms. So you can see it almost like, and if it's funny because if you think of a two with a one next to each other, it's actually an 11. But what's being called of us is that you could look at it as like the divine feminine and divine masculine, and that they're running through your blood together. And what's happening now as this code is coming in for us to absorb and awaken is that these two bloodlines are resonating at the same frequency as our DNA is activated with this code. And they are resonating at such a frequency that they begin to reflect each other perfectly and become one. And that is what is happening to us as humanity. The more that we reflect the grace within us to those that we come in contact with, the more we reflect, God reflects God. And we reflect God in humanity through oneness. And the more we awaken to that, I see it, it's almost like this weave of energy where it's just so perfectly brought together that it makes this, oh my gosh, I can't, it's like web of divine light. And the more that we expand this web, the more it touches more and more people until we tip the scale and we become the 51%. And that is truly when we will walk heaven on earth. But we're already experiencing heaven on earth right now. When I say that, as when I'm saying that there will be more people that will agree that we are experiencing heaven on earth than not. But that experience is for us right now. And we do that by choice. We do that by meeting others in their divine self and seeing that reflection in them, regardless of what the experience is. And that's what I mean by it's time to move beyond the story. It's time to move beyond the belief. It's not about, a lot of people are saying Christ has risen. Well, it has, it's risen inside of us. We are walking in Christ consciousness. We are walking with the ability to hold unity consciousness. And we do that by meeting others in the reflection of our divine and then continuing to see that reflection even when the experience maybe is not vibrating in that reflection. It doesn't mean that we're still not reflecting God. Because of where we are in frequency, we may have a different experience of God, but it doesn't mean that we're not. And when I say God, if that's like a hang up for you, and that's what I was kind of saying at the beginning, that's just the word that I'm choosing. A lot of times I'll use divine, the great creator. That's just the word that I'm choosing for myself right now, because for some reason that vibration is really resonating with me. And those of you that know me, I don't normally say that word, but right now that's the word that keeps coming to me. So I'm just going to freely just speak from my heart. And I hope that you can see it beyond the story that it might hold.
And I have to share, we've got people watching on YouTube and our webinar platform, but on our Zoom room, we have 9 attendees, 2 panelists, and that makes 11.
Oh my gosh.
And
That's
that's been pretty steady through all of it. That's confirmation right there. That's really very, very cool. And these are wake-up calls. They're not easy. And it feels so much better than the dark agenda that we learn about this, right? So you can look at the darker side, but I'd rather go for the higher frequencies and really see this as that opportunity that it really is. Isn't it cool?
that is amazing to me. And that just gave me chills. Gosh, it's so, it's a 911. What does that mean? Well, it's a wake up call. It's time to awaken. And we awaken through choice by choosing to bridge over and over and over again, see beyond the lip of what our experience is.
All right, great. So what I'm going to do is go for some questions. All right, Catherine. Catherine in Utah says, I've been seeing 9/11 for a long time here, and what I was getting is the completion and raising to a new octave. So very much the same. I love the explanation. Thank you. Cool.
Very cool.
And all right, so you know what? Interesting. I've kind of experienced this too, and I know others. It's kind of like maybe the heart feels like it's in the throat. Um, Here, someone says, what about heart palpitations? How do we allow these to pass through? How do we not worry about this and not develop a story over it? Okay, practical question there.
Beautiful question. And it's funny that you're like, how do I not attach to the story about it? So really, you answered your own question, is that you don't attach to the story of it. And how do we do that? Well, we become the witness of the story. I have this thing where if I'm in kind of an intense thing, because when we're triggered with fear of survival, which is so interesting that that is coming up right now, is fear of survival, fear of suffering, all of those things of like releasing the crown of thorns and moving into higher levels of consciousness, is that I put it inside of TV. So I'll put the story of like, oh my gosh, what's happening to me? And oh, this is so scary. And I'll put it inside of a TV and I'll watch it. And that way, it becomes an experience that I'm witnessing versus I'm experiencing. Because I may still be having both, just like watching a movie. And if it's scary, you get that chemical reaction in your body still. But you know that when the story's over, that you're going to walk out and you're going to remember what it was like, but you don't continue the experience. So that's a really fun exercise that you can do, whether it's something physical. But I will say that there's a reason that you're experiencing the heart in the throat, because if you can think about where we are dimensionally, we're moving from through the fourth into the fifth. So our heart has to move. It has to move up. And you can think about the Christ code too. It starts by moving through the throat and into the lungs. Well, it's all that's happening is that we're moving in dimension and we're changing. Our body is literally changing in frequency. And so we're going to have some physical symptoms by that. But it's not about attaching to it in fear. Be discerning. Like if you have to go to the doctor, go to the doctor. I'm not saying to not do that, but don't connect to the story of it, be discerning, ask for guidance, and then follow that guidance. That would be, and putting it into the TV is always so much fun. And I'm sure there's a lot of you that are close contact with a lot of family members right now that may be challenging at times, and that's so much fun to put them in a TV. And instead of being reacting to the experience, you're just like, oh, I wonder what they're going to do today. And it's like you just watch them, and then you don't have to take on maybe the interaction of the story that's behind it. So that's my little have fun with the people that you're around right now, because it can be so entertaining.
Love the one you're with.
Right.
Love the one you're with.
I love
Yes, and it's very interesting when we're in situations like that, because you were talking about like two is the choice, two is unity. And we really, in this moment with our families, we get to choose the vibration. And so when let's see, let's call it loops, like looping, I don't know, bickering or little things that kind of irritate us. That's something within each of us, right? But we're given an opportunity to like really sit back and go, yeah, I'm not going to tune into that, or I'm not going to. So I love your little advice about putting them in the TV.
it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it works. It's so much fun to do.
Okay. Jules, you are a beautiful person who makes these cosmetics, energy encoded cosmetics, and so much more. They're really high frequency. And your special offer, I want to give you a moment to talk about that. For those who are interested, actually, I could pull it up on our screen here, because this is really interesting. You call this the Immune Booster Cellular Upgrade Package. And this is available on this webpage that you guys are viewing this show on. But tell us a little bit about the Immune Booster Cellular Upgrade.
Okay, I love this. So, yes, so part of it is the scalar frequencies where you would send in your picture and it goes in the scalar device. So, right now, my intention was to just, I kind of had this whole program of, okay, we're going to raise your frequency and we're going to do this. But then I kept getting that it's about supporting the cell so that the cell itself can hold that higher frequency. Because if the cell is strong, then the virus just passes through and it won't penetrate the cell. So I have two programs running. One is on the spiritual level of the cell, and then the other one is on a very physical level. Where it's actually feeding the cell, giving it the nutrients and all the things it needs to have a stronger cell wall so that the virus cannot penetrate the cell itself. So it's working on two different levels, and I'm running that program through this whole epidemic. So when this all subsides and people are moving back into the world and we aren't in this kind of chaos of social consciousness around it, then I will take your picture out. So whether it's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, your picture will stay in and continually run this program. And then the other thing that I have is the elixir that goes with it. So this elixir is also the spiritual side and the physical side. So it's raising the frequency of the cells in the bodies. But what I've done is I'm moving into biocoding through frequencies. So in this case, it's holding the frequency that is running along the DNA. And at any time it's heading somewhere that is and not either in degeneration or just like holding a lower frequency, it will hang out on that genome until the frequency shifts. So it's a little different than actually recoding the gene. It's not recoding the gene, it's just allowing a higher frequency to elevate the body in health and vitality and wellness. So how it works is it releases, the first code is released looking for a lower frequency than what it's holding. And if it finds one, it actually sits on top of that gene code until it raises the frequency of it. And then it will go and do the next one. So some of you that have worked with ohm codes with me, it's a little bit different. It's purely to keep the frequency of your cell to a level where, like I said, that cell wall is nice and strong so that the virus cannot penetrate. And then I also have a lotion that you can put on your hands that I have in my car right now. So every time I get out of my car and go somewhere, I'll apply the lotion. It's ORMUS based, and it also has all of the frequencies, and it also has the really intense essential oil of peppermint and a little bit of clove to kill any bacteria that was on your hands. So you're not only raising your frequency every time you use it, but you're also absorbing the intelligence of the ORMUS through the cells. And in this case, it's also focused on just raising the frequency of your thoughts, because the ORMUS, of course, is elevating states of consciousness at the same time. And I'm actually, because I cannot see your screen there, I'm just going to make sure I didn't forget anything in the offer. I feel like maybe I am. Oh, I did forget something. And then the last thing is the activation. So this is the blue light activation. And oh my gosh, there's something about this activation that's so amazing. So this blue light has been coming to me for a couple of months now. And it also holds a frequency to elevate the frequency of our cells. I'm going to take it a little bit further, because this light is also raising the frequency of our cells to where it's actually holding more light, and it's putting more space between our cells. So there's more light between the cells. But the wonderful thing about that is that when we have more space between our cells, they're healthier, they're holding more oxygen, and then they are starting to divide at this higher frequency. So over time, the more we do this activation, the more that we are actually evolving into what I would call the light body. But if anything, we're evolving into health and vitality, because the cells start to divide with this higher intelligence or higher frequency. Let's see, did I forget anything? Oh, yes. And then the other thing is the video transmission. And so this is, I actually do a specific code that is for to elevate the immune system. And so it's working. So before I was saying that it's not specifically in the codes that I've done before, but this one is actually working with it. It's coded to work with the immune system very, very specifically. And it comes with a video that you watch, and then you see the code happen. So basically what you're doing is you're taking your subconscious and your consciousness, connecting it visually to the cell, watching it happen. And over a period of time, like I like to say 45 days. For most people, it doesn't take that long, but I still encourage them to do it. That over 45 days, that cell will take on that new intelligence, so that you don't have to tell it what to do anymore, and it will do it on its own. And so, of course, having a healthy immune system is really important. And that's what this transmission is about. And I believe that is everything. Lauren, did you have any questions about? I kind of just sped right through that. Sorry.
No, thank you. Thank you for that. That's a beautiful package, a beautiful offering. We've used your beautiful creams and lotions, high frequency, actually connecting us to our divine templates. So really beautiful products. They smell great. They're really natural. You do a really good job. You are a new earth industry, and it's high frequency products. So I love that. And the scalar energy that you bring in is absolutely beautiful as well. So we love that. And you are on the cutting edge. Thank you so much for that special offer.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, I would love to check our questions. There was one that I thought I saw, or a comment I wanted to share. Let's see. Okay, here's Bill. Oh, hi, Bill. Bill says, your interpretations are so beautiful and make so much sense. I'm an 11 soul path number and always see 11 everywhere. 9 is also a number I'm associated with. And I love hearing that the 9 to 11, turning into 11 is very well explained. Very cool. Thank you. And I have another comment. We have been in Christ consciousness and experiencing heaven on earth since 1212. I would say 12, 12, 12, perhaps. I'm going to assume. And this person says, many simply do not have the eyes to see it. Thank you for that perspective.
So true.
Let's imagine that let's really feel that. Yes, we are in new earth. We are in new earth. Good. All right. So, Jules, those are the comments and the questions here.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's about it. Thank you, everyone. I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank you, Jules, for being here. And anything else you'd like to share as we say goodbye today?
Oh, I don't know. I loved that last comment. And I agree that we've been in the New Earth since 1212 as well. And 12, 12, 12. But I think if there's anything that I would want to leave everyone with is that we all just take a moment to claim that we awaken to that reality and that we experience that reality in our own way, and that we all bond together in the reflection of our divine and reflect that into our reality, because that's what this time is about, and it's just so beautiful, and I'm honored to be able to experience that with you, Lauren, and everyone that's on the call.
Wow, beautiful creation with you today. Beautiful lesson on the frequencies and how we allow it just to really move through us, and how these are truly frequency light upgrades. And I love that. Also, we want to remind everyone on Saturday, 4/4 Saturday at 10:45 p.m. Eastern Time, New York time. That is the Pluto Jupiter conjunction. It's going to happen. So it happened once already this year. It's happening a couple more times this year, but this is a global mass meditation. So no matter where you are at 10:45 p.m. Eastern time, take that moment, take 22 minutes and feel in to our collective heart and really put your heart light into this mass global meditation. Send your love to Gaia. Oh my gosh, I got chills all over. How about you?
Oh, I feel it all the way down to my toes.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you all for connecting to us. It's a very, very powerful time. And we thank you for adding your creative heart light to our planet at this time. Jules, thank you for showing us another way to New Earth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Again, check out the link on this webpage or in the description box for Jules' special offer on the Immune Boost Cellular upgrade. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Jules. Namaste.